Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
We've been expecting you.
Monday, time for our maven of the supernatural, Denise Pridemore. This is the Paranormal Pride. Join to listen and chat live on WBHM-DB.com or Spreaker app. Search WBHM-DB every Monday at 7 p.m. Central for your supernatural paranormal fix. Welcome to the Paranormal Pride, where the show is about the guest and the listener.
Welcome to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Nash Hoover. We're going to shake things up a little bit here for you guys. I normally don't have cryptid hunters on the show, so tonight we're going to do that. I met Nash up at the Van Meter Visitor Festival, and he was very interesting, and he took me for what I was worth. He knew that I didn't know much, and he was very kind to me. And so I thought that you guys would like to hear about his story. And I want to hear more. It's just that at these festivals, sometimes you can't really visit as long as you'd like or get as much information as you would like to get. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this. And if you have any questions for Nash, please put them in either one of the chats, and I will make sure he gets ask those questions. So welcome, Nash, to the Paranormal Pride.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So since nobody on my show knows who you are, unless they met you at the Kansas City Paracon, and I know none of my friends went to none of the people that I see in the chat room right now, except for my husband, went to the Van Meter Visitor Festival, and heard me be not very knowledgeable about anything with you. How did you get involved in Bigfoot hunting?
So I first got interested in cryptozoology when I was very young. It's a elementary school, so this is early 2000s. It started out with I had came across stories of the Loch Ness Monster, and then I was kind of intrigued by it, so I kept looking into it, and then I came across Bigfoot stuff, then UFOs, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. It got to the point where I was checking out so many books from my elementary school library about these subjects that the school librarian was setting aside books, new books that they were getting in on the subject, so that way I was the first to get them, and she would always allow me to keep them longer than she would let normal people.
Okay, and so you don't just hunt Bigfoot; you hunt all kinds of things.
Oh yeah. We are not a Bigfoot specific. We look into all types of all kinds of cryptids from all over the world.
And so you were young, like what, 10, 12 when you got started in this, or younger than that?
I'd say 6 or 7.
Okay. And your mom and dad, did they support you in all this?
Yeah. My mom is kind of interested in this stuff too, so that kind of helped a lot. And my grandparents, my dad's parents, really supported and kind of enabled some of this stuff. And yeah, I've had a lot of great support from family growing up and researching this stuff.
Was your mother with you at the Van Meter Festival?
No.
No, there was some lady that was with you. I didn't know who.
That was my girlfriend.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean. I don't remember what she looked like. I just knew there was a woman there, and I didn't. And then, of course, my mom was only 36 when I was about your age. So, so my mom looked really young. So I'd never pay attention to really how old someone is. So I hope she's not offended. So, so what was the first thing that you went out to investigate?
Well, when I started actively in the paranormal, I started with ghosts. It was me and my two friends just kind of started ghost hunting around just kind of local places that we could get into for free. And because at the time I wasn't aware that, cryptid investigating was, anybody could do it really.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I kind of got into other shows and stuff, as I started, I came across Destination Truth, and I grew up watching Monster Quest. But then once I got into Destination Truth, I realized that there could I could take the filmmaking elements that I was putting into my ghost hunting and put it towards cryptids, and that kind of snowballed into the creation of Chasing Legends. And our actual first episode with Chasing Legends was a ghost hunt, believe it or not. But I would say the first real cryptid that I looked into was our local Minnesota lake monster, which is called Peppy, or it's the Lake Pepin monster. That was really my first dive into a on the ground cryptid investigation.
Is this monster like Nessie?
Basically.
Okay, because I was telling somebody the other night, we had one in Maryland in the Chesapeake Bay that we called Chessie.
Yep.
And we actually had a show on TV on UHF, not that anybody knows what UHF is now, but with Captain Chesapeake, and he had his little sea monster with him. Its name was Chessie as well. But we actually had, people would say that they would cite this, monster out there in the Chesapeake Bay. But of course, knowing that when people go out there, fishing and crabbing, they were always drinking. I mean, I always saw how much beer they loaded. It's so I didn't believe a lot of them, but it was I don't even know if the legend if they're still talking about that out there or not. But I heard about that one. From the time that I was 2 years old. If my dad didn't want me to go in the water, he would say, "You can't. Chessie's going to get you." There were stories of children drowning, and they would blame it on this sea monster. And I actually went out one time, and I actually almost drowned. My dad saved me, but I was 6 years old, and my dad was saying, "See, I told you not to go in there. That sea monster would get you." But I never saw anything to prove or disprove that. It never made me afraid of the water, though. I kept going in the water. So, so what other kind of creatures have you investigated?
So we've looked into a lot of the Dogman sightings in Wisconsin. I've researched still heavily into the Lake Pepin stuff still to this day. I've gone out there quite a few times after we were out there filming. We've gone to Ireland investigating Irish legends.
Oh, wow. Really?
That's
really interesting because their legends are a lot older than ours.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I remember seeing stories about the Loch Ness monster and all that when I was growing up on different TV shows. And what besides Loch Ness monster, did did you guys, investigate like fairy rings and things like that, or are there other types of monsters? I mean, I know there's a song Werewolf in London. What all did you investigate in Ireland?
Well, we went out there specifically to investigate a Celtic legend known as the puka, which was it's almost like a goblin trickster creature, spirit, whatever, that is supposed to, kind of live in these areas. And basically it was, from a lot of the stories that we came across, it was almost kind of used as like the local boogeyman almost, where, if you stumbled, if you were drinking in the pub and you were walking home and you say you fell over or whatever, it was the puka that pushed you over. And the woman we interviewed out there said that growing up, she was always told that if you ate like wild berries after a certain date, it was because you pretty much had up to a certain date to eat these berries, because after that the puka would taint them and they wouldn't be good anymore.
That is, well, I know that Ireland has a lot of legends, period. What was your favorite part about going to Ireland? Doesn't have to be investigation wise, but everybody has something that was their favorite part about going to Ireland.
Ireland is just such a beautiful country, and the people are wonderful, and I would love to go back on a non-work trip and actually be able to see more of the country and just eat more stuff. We did a lot of we went and hiked around Killarney National Park, which is probably my favorite part of the whole trip, just because it's so many different landscapes, and I believe that's where they did some filming for Game of Thrones. I just saw that one of the guys that was on Game of Thrones died. Don't remember who. I never watched it. He was an old guy. But yeah, it's like you don't really think of like Ireland being like super mountainous, but it is. Like around the coast it is, and it's like they're pretty good sized mountains, and so that was, it was fun hiking through those and just kind of seeing, the untouched Irish countryside. And
well, you got a lot of places you could investigate there, just as far as if you decided to go on, castle tours and stuff. Most of those castles over there seem to be haunted. Another friend of mine just filmed a series out there, and so she has all kinds of stories about Ireland. And but she was looking at more on the the ghost side of the paranormal as opposed to the cryptid side. So so you've investigated Dogman, and then I forgot what you said it was, but the Ireland. What else have you searched for?
Well, recently, I say recently, yesterday I got back from Massachusetts filming. We were out there looking for, it's a Wampanoag legend called the Pukwudgie.
Yeah, I've heard about the Pukwudgie.
So we did a film for a few days out there, and researching that in the Freetown Fall River State Forest, and it's a pretty interesting story, and there's a lot going on in that area that's very weird.
Is this in the in the Bridgewater Triangle at all?
Yep. Yes, it is.
Okay. See, I'm not completely unaware. I do know some things. And were you filming for Chasing Legends TV?
Yes.
Or something? Okay. Because I know that everybody's involved in so many things these days. It's hard to keep track of everything everybody does. Have you ever investigated a phenomenon called Goat Man?
I have not. I've looked into some of the stuff, but I don't know. Some of the stories are interesting, to say the least, but I haven't done any extensive looking into it myself.
Well, I remember Bunchy not that long ago. Okay, I grew up in Baltimore, and there they came out with there's a goat man in this part of Maryland. I'm like, if why didn't I ever hear about it when I was growing up? They're going, oh, it happened, in this time frame, and I'm like, I lived there then. Teenagers. Where do you were a teen? If you heard about something like that, wouldn't you go out there and try to provoke it and get it to show up? I mean, let's be honest. We were teenagers. That's what teenagers do. We provoke everybody. It's just the Blair Witch Project. When that came out, everybody was going, oh, we got to go out here to Burkittsville, Maryland. And it's like, no, you don't. It's not real. It's not, there is no Blair Witch. It's made up. It's a made up story by these people who wanted to make a cheap movie, and people didn't want to believe me. And I said, yep, it's fake. There's no Blair Witch. And I know that there was a haunting or something, some reenactment show that said that they ran into this witch in the woods. And it's like, no, you didn't. It's not real. Because again, as a teenager, we would have went out there and we would have checked it out. Even if we had to hitchhike, we would have went out there. Because I knew about the Edgar Allan Poe house. I was in it when I wasn't supposed to be a bunch of times, and Edgar Allan Poe's grave, things like that. All the teenagers did this stuff. So, like I said, I hear some of these stories that are coming out of where I grew up, and they're saying this was going on before the 1960s, and all the way through the 80s. I'm like, no, it wasn't. Prove it to me, because, I have never seen anything like that. And then I have a friend that wrote a book about this thing called the Aberdeen Wild Man. And that is really interesting because that was in my area. And right near where I grew up. And it was related to the Aberdeen Proving Grounds. Have you ever heard of them?
I have not.
What they did is a lot of the experiments that came back from World War I and World War II ended up in different parts of the United States. And Aberdeen Proving Ground was one of them. So it's suspected that the Aberdeen Wild Man was a government project that got loose. And so I do have a book on that. I did read all about that and about a bunch of these different cryptids that you've talked about. And have you found anything? Well, we're not going to ask that question. Not yet anyway, because we're getting ready to go to break. But what has been the most surprising place that you've investigated?
I would say this last one out in Massachusetts.
And did you find something that made you say, I got to go back here sometime and check this out again?
Yeah, there was. They're just like I said, like the area, like I think you said it's in the Bridgewater Triangle. Just it's this, there's tons of stories that come out of that area, but like just out of this small patch of forest, the Freetown Fall River State Forest, we were digging up so many stories of just all kinds of weird stuff out there, like from cult activity to UFO sightings, other strange creatures besides the Pukwudgie. It was an area at one point in time. I'm sure it still gets used, but at one point in time, that was pretty much like where the mob would execute people, and it's just a very dark area. And there's this cliff face out there called the Assonet Ledge that we investigated by. And it was part of an old quarry, and it's just it's probably, I'd say, 80, 90 feet high. There's a small pond, lake, whatever, underneath it. People swim in this lake, but there have been countless mysterious suicides off of this ledge of people just jumping off. And we came across stories of people that showed no previous signs of suicidal thoughts that just threw themselves off of this, which kind of coincides with the Pukwudgie story that they're supposed to be a kind of a trickster creature. They kind of like to they lure people two things. So that's what a lot of people at least in the area say, is that, these suicides coincide with the Pukwudgies or the hauntings in the area, that they were compelled to take their own lives.
Well, that's very, very interesting. And you know what? We're going to have to finish that when we come back. You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We'll be back with Nash Hoover in just a few minutes.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk radio.
Listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Since 1948, Fate Magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. My guest tonight is Nash Hoover, and we were talking about what sounded a lot like the suicide forest in Japan, but no, that's in Massachusetts. So that was very odd, that the Pukwudgie seems to have some mind control.
Either mind, yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily call it mind control, but because we came across the story of a man that was out walking his dog, and they came across like a 2 to 3 foot tall creature, and I guess the guy said that it looked at him and kind of smirked at him, and the guy said that he felt compelled to follow it, but he was able to kind of get out of it, and he just he pretty much ran out of there. So we've come across stories like that a lot, where people have seen these creatures and had that a almost like I guess you'd call it like a clairvoyant thought to follow it. And I don't know. I guess
because I know
you could chalk it down to mind control,
or at least persuasion.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's really interesting. And so you only investigated a little part of this 200 square mile area in Massachusetts. So
yeah.
there's a lot of things for you to go back for.
Oh yeah.
Because you said that you also investigate UFOs, and they have a lot in the Bridgewater Triangle. They have a lot of ghosts in Bridgewater Triangle, and who knows what else is in there besides the Puckwudgie. You
Yeah,
know?
we were pretty much told that there was, if you're anything you're looking for, you'll probably find it out there.
Sounds like Vegas in the woods.
Yeah, pretty
I'm
much.
kidding. So, what would be for you? What would be the piece of evidence that would make you go, I've got to show this to everybody and prove to them that they're wrong? I mean, have you found anything on a cryptid that proved to you that it existed?
Well, I know when we were doing our Dogman research, we found a pretty large canine track. I should say we found several very large canine tracks that kind of fit the size description that we were getting. That kind of made us, go, okay, there could be, something, some sort of large, canine creature living out here. So that was kind of like, we had that. I don't know. We found that last April. I just finally had it looked at by a professional, and they said it looked to them like a gray wolf, which would, it would kind of coincide with the sightings of the Dogman creatures of being some type of wolf creature.
Okay. I have another friend that's part of the North American Dogman. I don't remember, association, I guess it is. Jay Lynch. And so it's interesting to hear more things about something, like I said, something I know nothing about. I don't know why. Is a Dogman similar to a werewolf?
It's essentially, it's more of a modern description or take that, I guess they more just call them dogmen rather than sticking with the more traditional historic pop culture werewolf. But they pretty much describe them as being, similar characteristics of a large bipedal. I would say the only difference would be, a werewolf is usually a person that transforms into this creature, whereas a dogman is its own entity.
Is it possible that some of these creatures are, multidimensional, or not multidimensional, that they can come and go, they're going through portals and coming here from somewhere else, that they're alien? What do you suspect that some of these creatures are?
I don't know. I guess I don't really take on to the whole portal stuff. I mean, I delve into like the multiverse theory and such like that, but when it comes like paranormal stuff and portals and stuff, that's kind of usually where I draw the line. I guess I don't know. I guess if they're anything to me, they're either a undocumented species or it's just simply misidentification.
Did I, after watching, did you watch the Expedition Bigfoot show?
No.
It is actually very interesting, especially for people who don't know anything about Bigfoot or have seen enough of the shows to where you're sitting there going, well, this is much better than hunting Bigfoot or finding Bigfoot, because finding Bigfoot made me mad, and I stopped watching it.
Finding Bigfoot made a lot of people mad.
It did. It made me,
including the people that were on it.
Yeah, and I mean, I just recently saw one of them on the Alaskan Triangle. Forgot his name, but it was a tall guy with blonde hair, maybe gray now, but I couldn't tell. And so I don't know. I mean, the porcupine theory kind of did it for me. And it's like, okay, well, we guys can't watch this anymore. And I mean, I bring up the porcupine theory all the time because it's it makes me laugh. But we do have a question for you. It says, does Nash have experience of creatures communicating telepathically?
Other than, maybe the Pukwudgies with the stories of them kind of leading people to their deaths, and other than that, not really. No.
Okay, so you haven't had the experience of anything communicating with you telepathically, right?
No.
Okay. Now we have another question for you from Cassie, and she asks, what is the scariest thing that's happened to Nash while searching for, well, anything paranormal?
I love that question.
Well, I'm pretty sure you met Cassie at the Kansas City Paranormal Conference.
That you should know the story.
Well, maybe she's wanting you to tell everybody.
I'll tell it again. Well, actually, I've had probably my most profound, freak out moment, I think, since I've met her. I think for me, probably the scariest encounter I've ever had was this last, the January of 2019. I was, outside of cryptid investigating in the paranormal, I'm a filmmaker as well. So I was hired to be a director of photography for a ghost hunting show that's on Amazon Prime called Afterlife Sessions. My most profound and terrifying experience that I still think about to this day, and I have refused to watch the episode that this happened in, happened at the Sally House in Kansas.
You do know I was the tour guide there for 7 years.
Oh, were you really?
Yep. So I can tell you I can tell you factual stuff about that place to make your toes curl.
So basically, what happened was we were in the kids' room that they have set up in the Sally House, and
the nursery.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And the two guys that were the hosts of the show were doing their experiments and communicating, and at some point I just started feeling super lethargic. I was instantly exhausted, completely drained.
Yep.
And so they were going around the house and doing their investigation. We were on the second floor. And I was following one of the guys, and we went into the closet that's in the master bedroom.
Yep, full of EMF.
Which we were told was, had a lot of pretty interesting things. And as soon as I walked through the doorway into the closet, literally as soon as I passed that threshold, I fell over. Mm-hmm. I just was instantly dizzy and fell into the wall pretty much. And that was only the beginning. So after that, we went back to the nursery, and for some reason, I was compelled to lay on the floor. So they were continuing to do their experiments in there, and I was laying on the floor. And at some point, I sat up and I was leaning against the wall. I was pretty much sitting against the wall, and there was this loud, deafening ringing in both of my ears. And
which wall was it? The one by one of the ones by the closet?
I was pretty much right next to I was sitting pretty much right against the closet.
There's a portal there.
And the last thing I remembered was them both sitting next to me, and then all of a sudden I came through, and they were both standing in the hallway, pretty much yelling at me through the doorway, trying to get me to snap out of it. And I guess I pretty much just was sitting there with my eyes wide open, and I guess it was over a span of 2 to 5 minutes, and I have no recollection of anything. I don't remember them getting up and leaving. I don't remember any of it.
Well, I got some secrets for you. If the lights were on downstairs in the kitchen, EMF comes up through the floor from there into that room, into the nursery, and there's unshielded cables and wires in the upstairs bedroom. and it will make you fall over, which it did to Zach. And he walked into that room and he actually fell backwards when he walked into that room. Didn't show it on TV, but I was there with him, so I saw it. So there's very high EMF from that hall light going into that closet there. But again, like I said, I have 7 years and thousands of pages of research on that house.
If I remember correctly, all the lights were off.
But that doesn't mean that there wasn't EMF.
No, absolutely. No, I agree with you 100%. That just to me, though, was probably the strangest, kind of scariest experience I've had, in anything like this. And yeah, you're probably right. It was probably something completely natural. I hope it was something completely natural.
Like I said, this was stuff that over years we found out from doing, when we walked in there the first time, we were gung-ho and this and that. And we would leave that house exhausted. I mean, when I would say we would do a 4-hour tour there, and yeah, I'd talk to 300 or 400 people that would come through there. This is before you ever showed up there, of course. We would talk to 300 or 400 people, and when we were done, we just wanted to go home. A lot of times we would stay in a hotel as opposed to driving all the way home because we lived 90 minutes from there. But we were that tired because that house would just suck the energy out of you, and EMF will do that. It'll just suck you dry. But that was, like I said, I can't tell everybody everything that I know about that house because there's so many things that if you don't ask me, I don't know if you want to know it. There's a lot of lies about that house. The house next door, yeah. The red house, that red house is more haunted than the Sally house. And I'll tell you why. Because that doctor that they said that lived in that house, in the Sally house, didn't live in that house. He lived in the red house next door.
Oh, funny.
He was the mayor, and that red house was more mayoral than the Sally house. So, and there was never a Sally. That's the one thing I tell everybody. There was never a Sally. There's no proof of her. There's no death record. There's nothing. And you see what you want to see in that house. Mm-hmm. Tony was willing to accept a little girl and then eventually found out, no, it's not a little girl. There's like I said, there's all kinds of things that I could tell you that would, like I said, curl your toes on the history of that house. The Glick Mansion across the street. I know you remember it. They say they're not haunted, but yet it's written up in 4 different books that people have had paranormal experiences there, and so have I. And they've had 6 deaths in that house. So yeah, like I said, I can tell you, I could probably walk you through Atchison and tell you history about almost anything there from the years that I was there. But I'm not discounting I've seen people have those reactions. One of the guys in the chat room, Carl, he got scratched on the inside of his leg at the Sally house in the nursery, sitting on the floor. When you were there, did you guys find the inscription in the other closet, the spell?
No, we didn't.
Because the person there doesn't know it's there. It's the stuff that I found out about the house. Somebody took me in there and showed it to me. And it's up in the very top of the closet of the room next to the bathroom, the other room. We used to call it our safe room until stuff started happening in there. I got cuddled in there, spooned by something when I was sleeping there one night. Slept in the nursery one time. Me and Ron in the twin bed. It's much more comfortable than the double bed. I'm just saying. But yeah, I mean, I've been scratched in that house more times than I can say. So you ever have any questions about it, about facts, let me know and I will give you facts. But, it's one of those things that I was obsessed with that house from 2010 to 2017. And suddenly I wasn't. That's another story. So, but did you guys, when you were there, did you go down and check out down by the caves in Atchison at all?
No, we didn't.
Yeah, I saw that after the Kansas City Paranormal Conference, a lot of people went up there to check it out and stuff. So, and I know I live in Kansas City. You didn't see me at the Kansas City Paranormal Conference. We had other things to do. Ron's birthday, we went to St. Louis. The year before, we went to another conference. But are you coming this year?
They have invited me, but I'm not sure yet.
It's in a nicer area. So
yeah, that's what I've
it's
heard.
in somewhat nicer. I used to live in the area, but it's a lot nicer than it was. You won't have homeless people this time. So that's the good news. It's a good weekend that weekend usually. But yeah, I think you'll like the Ararat Shrine offices. They have a really good restaurant in there, I hear. So anybody planning on going, check out kcparanormal.com, and tickets are higher this year than they have been in the past, but check that out so you guys can, I think up until April 1st, they've got discounts on tickets. So as you can see, I don't know enough because I'm not planning on going, but it's vacation time. So, but I know that you've met a lot of people in our area from that. Are you planning on going to the Van Meter Festival this year?
Of course, I wouldn't miss it.
Because let's see, isn't it Keith H that's coming to the Van Meter Festival this year? I saw there was someone that Chad had posted about coming.
They have what's his name? David Weatherly and
that's who it was.
Ken
David
Gerhard. And yeah, I think those probably a couple other people, but those two for sure are like the big ones. Yeah,
and people, if you guys are listening and you really want to go someplace fun, the Van Meter Festival was fun. It was big enough to be is big enough to draw you there, but yet small enough to where you get to visit with everybody. So
yeah, it's such an intimate setting. I love that festival so much.
Oh yeah. You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We are going to take another break. And so if you guys have any questions for Nash, please get them asked and I'll get them answered. Thank you. And we'll be back with you guys in a few minutes.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Nash Hoover, cryptid hunter, UFO hunter, and apparently ghost hunter.
I dabble.
Or at least investigating. He's a dabbler investigator, apparently, with all the kinds of stuff. What haven't you researched yet that you would like to investigate?
Believe it or not, Bigfoot stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Huh.
I mean, I have personally done like Bigfoot investigations and stuff, but we with Chasing Legends, we have not done anything, which will be changing this summer. We will be doing one finally.
Well, you live in Wisconsin, right?
Minnesota.
I should have been able to tell that. But you're not far from Wisconsin. But up in that area there, don't you guys have a lot of Bigfoot sightings in Minnesota, Wisconsin, that northern part of Illinois area?
Yeah, there's Wisconsin specifically has a lot. I mean, Wisconsin's just a weird state, but
You said it, not me.
yeah, that's but yeah, we've come across a lot of like stories and sighting accounts from northern Minnesota. But yeah, I know a lot more of the ones in Wisconsin. I know there are ones in Minnesota, but I haven't personally looked into many of them.
Well, with the 10,000 lakes, they got to get water from somewhere. You guys have more than enough of it. My boss lives in Minnesota, up near Minneapolis, so I get to hear all kinds of strange stories from him every now and then. So, so when you did investigate for Bigfoot, not for the show, of course, how do you determine where you're going to look?
Well, we do. When I went, I'll kind of make this kind of a two-sided question. What I always do when I am investigating anything is I research the area very heavily. I find as many eyewitness accounts as I can and kind of narrow down on where those sightings were located to kind of zero in on a spot that seems to be pretty central to where the sightings are, and then that's kind of usually where I will focus my efforts.
That's kind of what they did on the Expedition Bigfoot, was that they took 50 years of data, ran it through big data type stuff. That's what I do. Run it through some programs and find out when would be the best time, the best place, and in this area to search. Do you also look at the best time to go?
Yeah, typically, we found that winter is usually harder than like spring or summer, just because it's everything is dead, so there's not a lot of cover.
Mm-hmm. Or food.
Yeah.
Do you have a theory of what Bigfoot eats?
I personally don't. I see them as probably being more of omnivores than anything. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of stories of them eating other animals and such. So I guess who really knows, really?
Well, I know that there's been some of these shows that Bigfoot is horrible. He'll kill you. It's deadly. What is your take on that? Is Bigfoot deadly, or is Bigfoot not deadly, just misunderstood?
Well, if you had somebody that just randomly showed up in your house, would you be a little defensive?
Yeah, probably. And I would, if they're in my actual house, they're getting shot. But if they're in my yard, I'm going to ignore it until it becomes a problem.
I see it as more of a. I've heard lots of stories of of territorialism, and they're more of afraid of you than you are of them. Kind of your typical kind of animal, whatever you want to call it. I don't really think that they're. I think like most things, they can be deadly if it comes to it, but I don't think they go out of their way to harm. Because I think if they did, I think there would be a lot more stories of dead hikers and dead hunters in areas where there's heavy Bigfoot sightings.
But they would say that's a bear attack or a wildcat attack before they would say it was Bigfoot or a Wendigo or something along those lines.
Right.
So, that's my take on it. Because, the show Killing Bigfoot, on the other hand, they walked around heavily armed all the time in the woods, talking about how they were going to kill Bigfoot. The Alaskan Triangle talks about a Bigfoot up there that killed people, quite a few of them apparently. Like I said, I don't have an opinion on that because I don't know, and that's where I'm sticking with it. I don't know. That's why I'm asking. I don't know whether or not I should be, I'd be taking a weapon into the woods when I go in the woods.
We usually do, but it's usually not to try to kill anything we're looking for. It's usually to defend ourselves from anything or anyone else that might be out there.
You guys go out in the woods a lot. Do you ever come across other people hunting for the same thing as you?
We have not come across other people, but when we have done like this last weekend when we were out in Massachusetts, we were out scouting, investigation locations during the day in the Freetown Fall River State Forest, and a group of kids, high school kids, kind of showed up and kind of walked past us. We have had that happen in the past where you get your local kids that kind of go out to the areas for a good scare. Another instance when we filmed an episode in the Devil's Punch Bowl, which is up in Menominee, Wisconsin. And as we were wrapping our night investigation, some local high school kids showed up to, get a good scare because they were aware of all the local stories and such. And it kind of depends on the cases specifically, but in terms of like more large scale cryptid investigations, we really haven't came across other investigators.
Have you ever come across, it's the woods. My family's moonshiners, so I'm going to ask, have you ever come across any moonshine stills or anything that looked like it might have been that?
We have not.
Okay. See, if you go out into Virginia, West Virginia, you have to have the weapons because of that. You never know if somebody's going to be shooting at you because they think you're coming up on their still and want to take their shine. So be aware. My damn family has got me all concerned about that kind of stuff. So we do have another question for you. What are some of the places Nash has been to more than once and he still wants to go back? This is from Cassie again.
Lake Pepin.
And how far is that from you?
It's about an hour and a half east of me. It's like it's right in between Minnesota and Wisconsin, but that's where the lake monster Pepe is. I go out there. I haven't been out there in quite some time now, but I used to go out there every couple months and just kind of scout the lake and scan and see if I could spot the creature. But yeah, it's just such a beautiful area out there too, and the town of Lake City is really nice, and I've gotten to know some of the local business owners and stuff pretty well. So yeah, that to me is probably an area I enjoy. Other than Ireland, but I've only been there one time.
Here's a question from Kat. She asks, "Does Bigfoot hibernate?"
I have been asked that question before, and I cannot tell you. I don't know.
What is your theory? I mean,
Maybe
since you said
maybe some species do, but since you got a lot of stories of Bigfoot-like creatures living in snowy climates, I don't know. I mean, they've got all that hair. It's got to be for something.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like me. Do I go out in the snow? No, I don't. I stay in. I do kind of hibernate in the wintertime. I don't go out and do things. But, with Bigfoot, it could be, hey, I'm hiding away in my cave because the snow makes me more conspicuous.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that they necessarily hibernate like a bear, but I think they probably do hunker down a bit, only coming out when it's necessary. If that's what the case.
Well, yeah, the snow makes it really easy to see footprints. I mean, we all know that's how a lot of trackers find their prey, their furs. The trap. With people who do that kind of stuff. So that's how we find out that people have been walking in my yard, and we got 12 cats that are eating food off our deck this winter. We got little tracks all the way through our yard. We now have paths where they've worn a path in. But speaking of paths, you've also followed those paths that are made by the animals in the wood. I forgot what they're called. But yeah, you follow those. That's when you're out there, right? To look for your cryptids.
You mean like animal trails?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. It's like the best way to get through the thick brush is to use the natural highway.
Yeah, luckily for us, most of the places we go are trampled by people.
Yeah.
Just my personal opinion. I don't usually go too many places where there haven't been people, unless it's to hunt down that stray cat that had 12 kittens in the woods next to my house. And then I end up with poison ivy and all that good stuff. Just running after them. So if you ever need a cat investigator, I'm your person. I can find cats. Yeah. We're going to be going to break here again in just about 2 minutes. But what is something that, you're talking about that you're going to be doing an episode on Bigfoot coming up here. What are you hoping to accomplish with that episode?
I guess either because we go into our investigations with pretty heavy skepticism. That's essentially like the focus of Chasing Legends is to pretty much everything is everything is fake until proven real.
Mm-hmm.
Or to say BS until we until proven otherwise. So we kind of go into everything with that kind of mindset of we're pretty much trying to not necessarily debunk it, but find alternate explanations. So I guess going into this next Bigfoot hunt, the thing we would be looking for is animals that are known to be in the area where this creature is sighted that could be maybe mistaken as this Bigfoot creature, as well as trying to obviously find the obvious signs of a undocumented creature, from footprints to hair, anything that we can physically collect to have analyzed afterwards to maybe prove or disprove. But that's pretty much for us that's everything is the solid hard evidence, and our own personal encounters that we may or may not have.
Well, you know what? You've ended at just the perfect time. We are at the top of the hour break. You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We are going to take a break for the news break, so you guys can go get whatever you need and come on back. We'll see you in about 5 minutes.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Speer. President Trump, on the heels of the worst stock market plunge in more than a decade, is promising tax relief and help for hourly workers whose livelihoods could be affected by the fast-spreading coronavirus. Trump saying as confirmed cases of COVID-19 and deaths linked to the disease rise, ripple effects through the economy are hurting airlines and cruise ship companies, and he said the administration is poised to act.
We are going to be asking tomorrow, we're seeing the Senate, we're going to be meeting with House Republicans, Mitch McConnell, everybody, and discussing a possible payroll tax cut or relief, substantial relief, very substantial relief. That's a big number.
In the U.S., the number of people infected with the virus has now risen to more than 560, with at least 22 confirmed deaths. Despite claims from President Trump, anyone who wanted to be tested for COVID-19 could be. Cities across the country are struggling to get access to those test kits. Texas Public Radio's Paul Flav tells San Antonio, a city of 1.4 million people, has 75 tests.
More than 90 passengers from the Grand Princess cruise in Oakland will be moved to Joint Base San Antonio-Lackland for quarantine in coming days. Each of them will be tested multiple times for the disease that has swept across the globe, killing thousands. But outside the base, the city of San Antonio only has 75 of the testing kits. San Antonio Mayor Ron Nirenberg says the city hasn't found a confirmed case in the community, but they lack adequate testing resources if they do.
Nobody has enough tests. They've got to get these tests out. They've got to get them out rapidly. And until then, we are with an absence of information.
Nirenberg says the absence of good information often feeds into hysteria. I'm Paul Flav in San Antonio.
Former presidential candidate Cory Booker has become the latest high-profile Democrat to throw support to Joe Biden. Booker announcing his endorsement on Twitter today, saying the former vice president will, quote, restore honor to the Oval Office and tackle our most pressing challenges. The stock market plunged today. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the Dow fell more than 2,000 points, or more than 7.5%.
Investors, already nervous about the coronavirus outbreak, grew even more concerned when global oil prices tumbled on news that Saudi Arabia is offering discounts and threatening to boost production. The world already has more oil than it knows what to do with, and demand is dropping as a result of the economic slowdown. Stocks fell sharply at the opening bell, and the sell-off was so frantic at one point, trading had to be halted for 15 minutes. It's only the second time in history that circuit breakers kicked in to give investors a moment to catch their breath. Stocks slid further late in the day. The major market indexes are all down around 19% from their recent highs. A sustained drop of 20% is considered a bear market. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
The Nasdaq dropped 624 points. The S&P fell 225 points. This is NPR. The Italian government has announced new extraordinary measures to contain the coronavirus. Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte has declared the entire country a red zone, meaning people should stay home except for work and other emergencies. This expands the emergency measures already in place in northern Italy, which is where most of the more than 9,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19 are. The Department of Veterans Affairs is slapping sanctions on several for-profit colleges. NPR's Quill Lawrence reports the schools are accused of taking GI Bill money and giving useless degrees.
Veterans advocates are praising the Department of VA for suspending new enrollments with GI Bill money at the University of Phoenix, Career Education Corporation, and several other institutions. VA says they use erroneous, deceptive, or misleading practices to attract veterans and their GI Bill money. For-profit schools aggressively recruit veterans, and billions of tax dollars have gone to schools that have low graduation rates or give degrees that don't lead to employment. The VA has an online GI Bill comparison tool to help veterans make the most of their education benefit. The schools have 60 days to correct the problematic advertisements and enrollment practices. VA says it will try to support currently enrolled veterans as they complete their degrees. Quill Lawrence, NPR News.
Microblogging site Twitter says it's reached a deal that will keep Jack Dorsey as the social media company's CEO. Twitter announcing today Silver Lake and Elliott Management will make $1 billion investment in the company. Elliott owns about 4% of Twitter's stock, will get a seat on the board. Silver Lake would also get a board seat. I'm Jack Speer, NPR News in Washington.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. The best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Nash Hoover, and he is an investigator of all kinds of things out there that go bump in the night. Oh, and probably bump in the day too. But if you have any questions, please put them in one of the chats, or if you're listening and not in a chat, you want to send me a message on, my Facebook Messenger, do that too. I'll take your questions. So what haven't we covered yet?
We could talk about the show a little bit more specifically.
Please talk about it.
So back in 2013, with, this is kind of back when I kind of was, at the point of realizing that my passion for filmmaking and passion for cryptozoology could coexist. I was watching that awesome Animal Planet mockumentary on mermaids that so many people bought into as being actual factual evidence. And I was watching that at the time, and I was messaging my friend Caitlin Keeley, who lived in Massachusetts at the time. And we were two people that met through the paranormal community and just, became really close friends through it. And I was telling her about this movie that I was watching, and, part of it, they brought up the Israeli mermaid case in Kiryat Yam, and which I had known about because they covered it on Destination Truth. And they had kind of brought up like the $1 million reward that, this town was offering for proof or whatever. So I was like, just kind of joking, like, hey, let's go to Israel and try and find this, mermaid and, get this reward. And, we can document, we can, hire a crew to document our investigation and, just kind of document the whole trip and maybe we could, and then we could put this out as a documentary. Well, then that spiraled into, well, why don't we look for other things? So over the next couple of weeks, we created, essentially laid the groundwork for Chasing Legends, and we've been filming it ever since. And we've, like I said, we've gone to Ireland, we've filmed all over the Midwest doing stuff. We don't have as much stuff out there as I would like, but the stuff we have out there is, I would say, pretty good in terms of quality. The one we just shot is going to be amazing.
And all your stuff can be seen on YouTube?
Yes.
And do you have any plans to go to Amazon Prime or any of the other outlets that are available these days?
Yes. This episode we just shot, as well as the next few we plan on filming that will kind of become our first proper season, will be on Amazon Prime as well as YouTube.
Wow. Yeah. So when are you planning on going live on Amazon Prime?
So our plan as of now is to film 4 more episodes after the one we just shot over the next year and a half, and then release everything in the fall of 2021. As of right now, that's our plan as of now. We'll, if we can release it earlier, we'll release it earlier. But as of right now, that's our plan, is to release the full 5-episode season and in one package on Amazon Prime and YouTube in the fall of 2021.
And yeah, because I know it takes a little bit of time to get the episodes ready for Amazon Prime because you have to meet certain criteria.
Yeah, you have to get the subtitling and all the licensing for any music, and
it's a lot of work.
It's gonna be different for sure, but it's gonna be a lot of fun to have another outlet for people to watch this stuff.
There's even more new ones coming out that I've just saw starting in April. There's just little 10-minute episodes of stuff. I don't know. It starts with a Q. I couldn't even say it if I tried. But I saw that was coming out. I don't know if that's something that just the random person can get their videos uploaded into there and go from there. They're supposed to be just no more than 10 minutes and, drama and news and all this other stuff. So I'm interested
Amazon
to see
Prime,
how that turns out.
Amazon Prime is actually, I thought it was a lot more difficult, but it pretty much is as easy as YouTube. You just have actual requirements to meet. Just obviously with needing to have closed captioning and such.
Right. Because I know that some YouTube videos have closed captioning and some don't.
Yeah.
So, but I don't. I'm a bad person. I don't watch anything on YouTube unless it's the wheels on the bus go round and round. Right now, the grandson has my phone all the time. So anybody paying attention to my phone, they're going, huh? She looks this, and this, and then why is she looking at YouTube Kids for 6 hours? It's because I have a grandkid, and I've heard so many versions of the Hand Family too. I could sing them all to you, but you wouldn't like it. So see what you got to look forward to when you get older. Maybe your child will watch your videos instead of the wheels on the bus.
I hope so.
So my granddaughter just saw me on TV. It was 5 years ago, of course, but she just saw it recently, and she kept going, yelling at the top of her lungs, "That's my grandma!" So, and my grandson hasn't noticed anything yet. Unless it's a cartoon, he doesn't see it. So, but all these things we've talked about, I still have so many questions that I don't even know how to ask some of them because, like I said, I don't want to be rude, and it's all because I just don't know, about Bigfoot and cryptids. But we've talked about these things, and you said that you've also investigated UFOs. Where have you investigated? Kind of. You're more interested in it?
I've more researched than investigated.
So how do you research? Do you just research on the internet the different?
Mostly, yeah.
Okay. So, because UFO stuff is very interesting in the way that I've talked to people who have been abducted, not on my show, but personally, in person, and I believe them. Is it the same with the people who have witnessed these cryptids, that the way that they talk about it, they're just that credible?
It really comes down to kind of what they say and how they say it. Like I have a book that pretty much breaks down how you should interview people in these cases. And a lot of it comes down to, you pretty much, if you're interviewing somebody that has the same story as, the last three people, then it's probably a case of mass hysteria. But if you get those rare ones where it is a very personal, seems like a very personal encounter where they're, tearing up and they're frightened to talk about it, then you kind of have to you take those a little bit more credibly. You get those people that, they're pretty much coming to you for answers that you can't always give them, because they're trying to rationalize it in their minds and they can't.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get the people that it almost seems too good to be true, and most of the time it is.
Yeah, like I said, it just always makes you wonder, how do you determine if someone's lying or not lying, imagining it, quite possibly not hallucinating, or the guy just came out of a bar. He was driving down the road and he swore he saw Bigfoot. Do they leave out information when you're interviewing them?
Usually when I'm interviewing people, I guess I would say they don't leave out anything I don't ask them.
Okay.
But you do have your cases where you'll interview the same person multiple times and the story will always change. So obviously you get the times where it is consistent every time. But you did get those people that, that's usually how you can catch if they're lying or not, is you interview them several times and, it's a different story, or you have several people interview them at the same, around the same time.
And the story's just different enough to where
you get the
validity.
You get those little details that they might have said one thing the first time and then they're saying something completely different the second time, or something little changes, or they're where they were headed changes, or where they were at changes.
Yeah, that's I've witnessed that in interviewing people on the show as well as in person, that I get sometimes some things that they tell me are conflicting. There's no way that both these things could have happened at the same time because of where you say you were at this time and this time, things like that, spatial stuff, always throws them off, because of, hey, you said you were here at this time and now you're saying that you were here at this time, and timing, you couldn't have made it that far in that amount of time, or, certain things like that. You can always find, not always, when someone is not being completely factual with you, you can find the holes. Sometimes it's just like Swiss cheese, but I've witnessed that, and even on some of these shows that I've seen that happen, but yet they didn't cut it. They still showed it even though it wasn't. I could tell the person wasn't telling the truth.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe they believe they were. Like a 5-year-old, they believe they're telling the truth, but they're not.
Right.
So,
but you investigating this kind of stuff, you always get the people that just want to be one of the crowd. So, say, two of their friends had this encounter and they didn't, they want to be a part of it. So they just kind of play it off like, oh yeah, I was there. I saw this whole thing. And, I had the same experience. But then, when you try to get specifics, they can't give you any.
Yeah. Is there anybody in your field that you would love to meet? I know there's probably a bunch.
I've already met Gates. So
there's nothing else after that.
At one point, yeah, there's really. I'm trying to think. There's got to be somebody. I'd love to sit down with Forrest Galante. I know he's not really into like the cryptid stuff, but just I like that the Forrest Galante from Extinct or Alive, because he searches for animals that have been deemed extinct but are still being seen. Which I guess you could kind of fit into the cryptid category, because like the Tasmanian tiger fits into the cryptid category even though it was a real animal.
Right. But that hadn't been seen in a long time. So,
right.
You just we're not that closely defined in the field that we're in.
Right.
So whether it's paranormal investigating or cryptid investigating, or, they're all in the same realm, but how one person investigates it compared to another, I don't think that there's a big a big distinction there that makes us that different. But at this point, we're going to take a break. You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We'll be back in a few minutes.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Nash Hoover, and we've been having a very interesting talk. He's been teaching me about some of these other things that I know nothing about, and thank you. I appreciate it. And like I said, I just want to know more about all this stuff. And here we go. April has a question for you, Nash. She asks, do you consider ancient texts or accounts with current accounts and compare them? Like a then and now kind of comparison?
In terms of like cryptids?
Investigating. Whatever you're investigating.
I guess it kind of depends on what specifically. Like if it's, with like the Pukwudgie stuff that we were just investigating, it's a Wampanoag legend. So obviously we looked pretty heavily into their lore of the creature. Same with, the Puka stuff in Ireland, because that's very deep in Celtic folklore. But really, a lot of pretty big cryptids of the world that are cited pretty frequently have a stem back to the ancient folklore, or probably in some cases stem from the ancient folklore. So yeah, definitely, I really love looking into the where some of these stories originate from, and it's pretty wild to see how old some of these stories and how far back some of these things have been being seen outside of the more modern and mainstream sightings.
Do you ever look at old newspaper accounts of these cryptids?
Yeah, sometimes I do. Like I said, it kind of depends on what specifically. Because I know like there's, especially like in the Midwest, and even like, I mean, most of the United States, there's always your old news articles that kind of go back to cryptid sightings, if that have at least been more modern. I know like with the Lake Pepin stuff that we came across some pretty old newspaper articles talking about sightings, back in like the early 19 and the late 1800s, and even back farther than that.
Wow. And you figure newspapers have been around in our part of the country anyway, probably since the 1800s. The late 1800s, because Kansas was founded in 1856, and you figure sometime either slightly before that or slightly after that, there were printing presses and all that for people to have their newspapers out. So I know that those accounts are interesting because of the fact that you have somebody's telling this story back then, and you're looking at it now and going, are they telling me the same thing that they're telling me now? Is it the same, or has it evolved? Has it changed in some way? Do you think about those kinds of questions when you're looking at some of this stuff?
Yeah, for sure. Because especially if you're getting if I'm researching something here in 2020, and you're getting almost identical reports from the 1920s, it really kind of led some credibility to the sightings. I mean, obviously in some cases it could just be the people that have read those stories and just kind of put a face to the what they were seeing. But in most situations it is a brand new, they've never heard or knew anything about this in their life, and they had something and they described it to a T to something that has been well before they were even thought of, had been seen in that area.
What there's like I said, it's just some of that research is, do you ever have to put yourself in the mind of the person that you're the stuff that you're researching, the person who reiterated the story in the newspaper or on the internet article? Do you ever have to do that? Or how can you tell from an internet article or newspaper that it's a credible sighting?
You really can't. It's unfortunate. I mean, like I said, if there's if certain sightings fit a decent pattern, then usually you kind of start to to kind of take it as a credible. But usually when we're out researching these things in the field, if we have time, we'll usually try to go to some of the places of these older sightings and kind of see how the area has changed, and really put ourselves in the shoes of that person, like you were talking about, and just to kind of take it in and think like, wow, 50 years ago somebody saw Bigfoot walking through this area, or 100 years ago somebody saw this creature come out of the water, and it's fun to investigate with the history in mind, and just to really kind of to take a deep dive into those older sightings to kind of help you with the current sightings and our own investigations.
So when you're researching where you're going to go, what tools do you use to research the areas and all that?
Google Earth has been a lifesaver because
how far
we're
down
able,
can you get with Google Earth?
Pretty far down. Like I've been like the newer updates of it, I've been playing around with like the next episode we plan on shooting, like our Bigfoot episode. And because we pretty much we try to find like sighting reports, we can put them on the map, zero in, we can zoom in, we can get pretty much the 3D topography of the area, so we can kind of see how the landscape is shaped, and that's really that's been a huge help for us. Is seeing like, okay, that it also helps us to prepare when we get out there too, because like I said, you can see the 3D topography of the area. So we think, okay, we're going to need to hike up a decent hill, mountain, whatever. And so we got to make sure that we have proper footwear, and we're aware of our surroundings. And it's been wild. Like Google Earth has really changed how I do my research, and just look for investigation sites. And back in the day, back when I kind of started this, it was more of just pretty much you just kind of saw your normal aerial Google Maps view of it, and you just kind of had to go with it. You couldn't really get in there and specific and really see the nitty gritty. But now it's crazy. It's changed everything.
When I was talking to Linda Godfrey at the Van Meter Festival, she was telling me some of how she investigates and stuff, and it seems like that you guys have to spend a lot of time interviewing a lot of people when you go to your sites. So you set that up in advance before you travel to make sure that they're going to be there and all that, and then you go out to the site. Yep. Do you camp at the sites, or do you just go back and forth from like the hotel or whatever?
As of right now, we go back and forth, but we are going to start camping, especially with this next one coming up, just because it's going to be a lot of the sightings are so far off the beaten path that it's just going to allow us to investigate more of the area, not having to, hike out and then drive to a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we'll get a hotel for the first few days of filming, as we do our interviews and other stuff. But then once we actually get into the investigation stuff, then we'll hike in and camp.
Let's see. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I got a question. Carl asks, do you use drones when you're with your filming?
In the last couple of years, yes, we have, because of the our current director of photography has one, and that's been a lot of fun. We haven't used it so much for investigating yet, but we do use them for filming. But we will start using them probably more for aerial investigating in the future.
I can see you getting some good information from drones. I know they did on some of these other shows that I've watched. They've been able to get some really good information. Have you retrieved any good information, or just stuff, stuff for your show off of the drones?
More so just stuff for our show.
So what do you have coming up that's, that people are going to be wanting to see on your YouTube, or going to be seeing on your YouTube channel?
Like I said, there probably won't be anything new coming out until
next
the fall
year.
of 2021. Yeah. I mean, we're gonna upload some more little like behind the scenes bits, but you won't get any full episodes.
Okay.
So yeah, really the next thing that people will get to see is our full finished season.
Okay, so there'll be teasers along the way, and until you get to the full season. Well, that's good. I mean, because you got to keep people interested.
Yeah, for sure. Especially because at the end of the month, March 31st, we will be launching a Kickstarter campaign to help fund the remaining 4 episodes. So that way we can really put a lot into going to some pretty cool locations and do filming episodes about some of these better known cryptids in the country, and putting a lot of into the production to really make it look good. March 31st is our launch date for our Kickstarter for season 1 of Chasing Legends.
Well, make sure you share that so we can, I can share that out there on the page. On that note, can you share some of the locations that you're going to be going to, or are you going to keep that secret for the episodes coming out in 2021?
I will say locations. I will not say the regional names of the creatures. I'm sure some people will figure them out, but the next episode we'll be filming will be in northern Arizona. After that, we will be in Louisiana.
Okay.
After that, we will be in northern Vermont. Wink, wink. And after that, we will be in the Badlands of South Dakota.
Well, hopefully you do the Badlands of South Dakota in the summer.
Yes.
Because the weather gets bad. I mean, this year they got flooding up in in North Dakota and parts of South Dakota. It's my region for work. So I get to know who's being affected and who doesn't have telephone service. Sorry. When you work for CenturyLink, you know where all the bad weather's at based on who's affected. So, but yeah, South Dakota is one of the few places that up north that we have wanted to go, but mostly to see Custer's Last Stand, where that was at.
I haven't been
Rushmore.
Yep. I haven't been out to the Black Hills. I haven't been to South Dakota, period, in a number of years, I'd say at least 10 years. I love it out there. It's so beautiful.
I've never been there, and I'm really not all that far. It's just when we think of vacation, we think of the beach and where's the family at. So luckily for us, most everybody's south or someplace warm. So I don't think of going up that way, but yeah, I mean, Deadwood is one of the places that we've wanted to check out, but I've never been there, and I don't know. I don't know how I have no clue exactly how far away it is, but it looks like it would be a neat place to go in June, July, or August. After that, not so much.
Yeah, anytime I've ever been there has always been in the summer. It's a pretty touristy, so you're obviously going to have a lot of people depending on where you go, but it's just the Black Hills are just such a beautiful area, and it's just such a weird geography change compared to the rest of South Dakota. It's just pretty much nothing, and then you get out to the west end, and it's like a whole new world.
Yep. Here we have another question for you. This one's from Gary. He asks, this may be more on the paranormal side, but it could also be on the cryptid side. Has Nash ever investigated a cemetery, and if so, what do you look for?
We have actually. Because like I said, we used to, even with Chasing Legends, we used to dabble more in the ghost stuff as well as the cryptid stuff. We used to kind of do it 50-50, and then eventually we kind of switched over to more of the cryptid specific. But yeah, years ago, the team and I were investigating a local cemetery, and we had all kinds of crazy stuff. We didn't really go in there looking for anything specifically, so I can't really answer that question on what we look for. But we had an SB7 spirit box, and we had all of our names clearly repeated to us. And then out of nowhere, we started getting voices telling us to leave and to get out, and we're like, okay, let's leave. And then all of a sudden the voices change and they're like, no, don't go, stay. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere we had headlights literally appear out of nowhere. And it was on a gravel road out in the middle of nowhere, and you could hear the tires on the gravel. These all black cars would pass. They would come up the hill, and then as soon as they were out of sight, the sound and the lights would disappear. And then the voices would, tell us, okay, go, get out of here. And then so we would get up and we would start to move a little bit more, and then they would tell, the same thing would happen again, different direction. A car would appear out of nowhere. Like I said, we're in the middle of nowhere. There's absolutely no noise pollution from, nearby towns. So literally there was just an abrupt, loud tires on gravel sound, headlights out of nowhere. They would drive over the hill, everything would stop. So yeah, that was kind of one of the strangest on the paranormal, like the ghost paranormal side of things that I can say we've had at a cemetery.
I Bigfoot hunted in a cemetery once, but it was too cold to leave the fire, and that's all I could do. I did some tree bangs or tree knocks with a stick, and it was very, to coin a term that you hear on finding Bigfoot, it was squatchy. But it was, yes, there's spirits there, but, and a lot of, there's Native American spirits there. And so I thought it might be a good place where a Sasquatch might be, based on the fact that, I knew that there were Native Americans that used to be in the area at one time. So, and that way I got to stay warm for a little bit by the fire. But it had been 70 degrees earlier that week, and by that night, I think it was windy and about 20 something. So, when it changes temperature like that on you, right now 20 wouldn't feel so horrible, but 20 when it's been 70 sucks. So I couldn't leave the fire. It needed me to watch it. You know what? We're at another break. I have another question for you in the chat room that I'll ask you when we get back. But everybody, you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We'll be back in a couple minutes, whichever. We'll see you when you get back.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, The best in paranormal talk. Only on Paranormal Experienced Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight has been Nash Hoover. And I'm going to ask you the question in the chat room, and this is from April. She asks, would a cryptid include something like a minotaur that's, half human, half animal?
For me, that would fit more on the realm of like a mythical animal. I guess obviously if you're getting sightings, numerous sightings of that type of creature, then yeah, it probably could fit into that. But for me personally, that fits more into the realm of a mythical creature.
Well, thank you for that. Now I'm going to ask you these things so that they don't get out of the way. So if somebody wanted to find Nash Hoover, where would they go?
Whew.
Besides the woods.
Yeah.
Your websites, where can you share your websites and stuff?
So you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Nash Hoover. It's the same, just all one word, Nash Hoover. You can follow Chasing Legends on Instagram and Facebook at Chasing Legends TV. The Chasing Legends website is chasinglegendscrew.com. I know it's a mouthful. I'm sorry. But that is our main website. From there, you're going to be able to find pretty much everything you need to know, from social links to episodes to any news that we put out. You're going to find on that. Yeah, that's all of our links.
Okay. Well, I tell you, I was looking over everything and I was like, you got a lot of things going on, and it's really interesting. So you guys go out there and check out, the YouTube and follow him on Instagram so you can find out maybe you'll find out before the show's air what he's hunting for in Arizona and Louisiana, Vermont. I have no clue.
I'm sure a few people, if they follow cryptozoology, I'm sure a few people know the Vermont one.
See, I don't, but in my case, it would be. I can just shake my head. I have no clue. Arizona, I have a better shot.
Starts with a C and ends with Hamp.
Oh, okay. So, but for me, Arizona and Louisiana would probably be easier for me to guess.
Yeah,
mostly because Go ahead.
Arizona will be our Bigfoot case, which probably just helped a lot of other people.
I would have thought that it might have been a chupacabra or something like that you were hunting down.
No. Chupacabra's more Texas and Puerto Rico.
Well, but you know what? Things migrate. Arizona is not really that far from Texas or from Mexico at that point. They haven't gotten the wall built all the way across there, so stuff's still coming across from Mexico. So, but that's, there's some strange things in Arizona. I don't know where they're hiding. We've been hit by tumbleweeds. Well, we've mostly been across I-40 and the Painted Desert. That's been about it. But
we're going to be going there in July.
I love.
We're going to be going there in July, so we're going to have a lot of things that are going to try and kill us. So, yay.
Yeah, well, make sure you drink lots and lots of water, because the heat will be the first thing that's going to be trying to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
So, but my favorite thing in Arizona is pie. Actual pie as big as your head in Williams, Arizona. One piece. I'm not even going to think about how many calories is in it, but they have like 60 kinds of pie in this place. I found it last year and made Ron take me. and it's good. So if you go by Williams, Arizona, just look for this place. It's called Pine something. It's got a big bear on it, and it's on their main exit. It's just, that town is neat. We just got out and walked around while we were there. So, but I don't know where you're going in Arizona. Hopefully it's someplace fun.
Payson specifically is like where we'll be staying.
Okay. That's an interesting area. So just be safe. That's all I'm going to say. Just be safe. So
we never are.
Well, you've come back alive all these times, so you've been safe enough.
I don't know how.
Well, I'm, do you guys have you're talking about your videos and your episodes. Do you guys ever have a goofing off reel? You guys goof off at all when you're out there as well?
Oh yeah. That's we can make a whole show off just the goofing off. Yeah, some of it does make it into the episodes, especially with this the Puckwudgie episode that we just shot, and more so pretty much our whole first season. We're gonna feature a lot more of the crew interaction and the goofing around in between everything, because we just like to show that we do. It doesn't always have to be serious. But yeah, there's tons of goofing off, and that's kind of the stuff I was talking about that we will be kind of releasing on our YouTube in the meantime until our season releases, is the little stuff like that.
That's good, because I'm glad to hear that we're not the only ones out there goofing off a little bit with our seriousness.
Well, you have to. It just helps with morale too, especially when especially from our end too, where we're not just out there investigating. It's a full-fledged production. This is long days, early mornings, late nights, barely any sleep. So you got to do little things like that to kind of keep everybody motivated and happy.
Yeah, you do, because sometimes that little bit of laughter is all that it takes to get you through the next 2 hours, because a lot of what we do in these fields is we're fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't always catch anything.
Yep,
and sometimes that goofing off, something gets caught. It wants to interact. It wants to have a good time with you. Whether it's, I have no clue if a cryptid would want to come up and sit with you at the fire if you're sitting around laughing and having s'mores. But you never know. But I know that when we're sitting in a circle and we're talking about spirits, I know that they kind of seem to want to get in on that talking, or they get upset that we're not talking to them anymore. So I don't know if that ever happens with cryptid hunting. So, but I do have a question for you. When it comes to these paranormal TV shows, or not paranormal, but the Bigfoot and cryptid TV shows, do you have one that is your favorite? One that maybe helped get you more involved in cryptid hunting?
Destination Truth.
That one, I'll tell you, a friend of mine, McPike Mansion, was on Destination Truth, where Ron and I are volunteers at. It was the one that had the mist in the basement that they were trying to recreate, and they couldn't get it to recreate.
I think you're thinking of a different show.
No, I think it was. Oh, you know what? It might be in fact or faked.
I think that's what you're thinking of.
So, but I've seen a bunch of Destination Truth, but anything that has Josh Gates on it, I've seen at least once.
Yeah, I watch. I've watched a lot of the. I still to this day, I rewatch the reruns, and I've read his book, like probably, I think I'm on my 4th read through right now. Destination Truth is, that's kind of what I usually tell people, like, what to expect from my shows. It's like Destination Truth with our own kind of spin and flair on things. We have the heavy, the crew is all involved, and we document everything. It's not just it's not a tight knit show. Everything is very loose and it's chaotic, and we just like to show. We document the journey. We show everything that goes into it and all the things that can go wrong, and that's kind of usually my way of describing it to people, to kind of get, at least give them an idea of what to expect. So yeah, that's when I finally met Gates. It was, huge moment for me to meet him, and I want to meet him again and actually be able to talk to him more personally. But yeah,
I got to meet the person that I thought I really liked a lot, and found out when I met him personally that I was very disappointed, and that was John Cusack. Been stalking him since I was 15 years old, and when I finally met him,
I've heard that.
Yeah, I was very disappointed, but it is what it is. We put people on pedestals, but Josh Gates does seem like a really nice guy. My daughter read his book. She read it like in 3 days. My granddaughter knows who Josh Gates is. So
yeah,
that tells you something.
Yeah, he's such a nice guy. He when I met him, I went and saw him in Milwaukee. He was doing his tour, and there was just people waiting outside of the backstage door, and he just came out, and he pretty much he had to get going. Like, he had to, he already told everybody that he had a 6 a.m. flight and that he had to pretty much get out as soon as possible. But he took the time to walk through and meet and take pictures with everybody and do a quick chat on his way out. And it was, and I know other people that have met him and spent a little bit more time with him, and he's, he is such a personal, down to earth guy.
Before we get off of here, I'm gonna, if somebody wants to get involved in cryptozoology investigating, is there a book or something that you would direct somebody to learn more before they got involved?
It's hard for me to answer that question, because I had help. Like Chad Lewis pretty much mentored me into the field. There are books out there. What is it? Hold on, I gotta look here. There's Mysterious Creatures: The Guide to Cryptozoology by George Eberhardt, I believe is what it is. It's 2 books.
Mm-hmm.
You can get them on Amazon. It's like an A to Z pretty much. Like, one book is A to, I forget, it's probably A to H or whatever, and then the second book is G to Z. But that's the book I was kind of talking about, that at the beginning of the first book, it breaks down like how to interview people and like what to look for. The rest of the book is more of just like an A to Z, cryptids around the world. But that was, to me, that was a huge help on like how to better interview and, people. So I would suggest checking out that.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. I can't really think of any other ones. Obviously, I just, I would reach out to other people in the field and talk to them. If there's anybody listening that, is interested in getting into it, please feel free to message me. I will gladly talk to you a little bit more in depth with things and kind of like what I did, and, kind of tell you what not to do and who not to talk to. And, but yeah, I guess it would more just, like I said, it's hard for me to answer that just because I had a mentor. But yeah, I would suggest checking out some different books on the subject, the one I mentioned. And then, yeah, just maybe try to find other reputable people in the field that aren't going to be giant assholes. And
I forgot to tell you, we're not allowed to cuss, but at least it's near the end. And so,
but yeah, just,
okay.
Find people that are genuine, that will be more than happy to take the time and talk you through and help you kind of break in.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it more than you know. And
yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for sharing all your knowledge. And like I said, when you get your Kickstarter up, please share it. And I will make sure I share it out there so that people can see it. And I'll be looking forward to the episodes in 2021. And maybe I'll see you at, up at there in Van Meter or Kansas City or somewhere.
Yeah, Van Meter for sure. Anybody else that wants, to come out and hang out, I will be at Van Meter the whole time. I'm not speaking, so I will be out and about. But yeah, please feel free to come, say hi, tell me your stories. I love to interact with people at these things, so please feel free to come up and hang out.
Well, thank you so much. Everyone, you're listening. Oh, next Monday, my guest is going to be Mike Ricksecker. We're going to be talking about the Haunted Road Media Paracon #3 at Mineral Springs and his new book about shadow people that's really doing good on Amazon. So if you guys have already bought that, make sure you bring your questions to Ask Mike. And the following week, we are on vacation, and we will be on a show in Vegas. And if you want more information about that, please ask me. But other than that, we will be talking to Mike Ricksecker next Monday at 7 p.m. Thank you, Nash Hoover. You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. Have a great week.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.